Hey guys, welcome to the J Plays 50 subscriber special! We're here on the TooCrafty server and we're working on one of my big secret projects, but look first, notice this! I got the carpet done. I got the roof done. Enough about those two things though, let's go check out what I'm working on right now. If we just go through this secret passage that wasn't here earlier, this happens. We have the beginnings of my indoor animal farm because I'm tired of having to go outside for all that stuff. I want this to be a little more self-contained, so I'm building it all in here. Isn't that exciting? So, while we're doing this, I figured I'd answer some of your questions. First up is Crow in Black 2008. Hey, how's it going, bud? He asks, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Well, I think there's some good scientific evidence that proves without a shadow of a doubt that it was the egg. Watch. So there you have it. Next question. If a woodchuck could chuck wood, where would he chuck it to, and how far could he chuck it? Well, I would say typically he would chuck it straight up into the air, and judging from, the average woodchuck strength to wood lifting ratio, I would say they could potentially chuck it all the way into the sun. Now, realistically, you'll never see that out in nature, and it's really mostly because most woodchucks don't have the means to make the tools to chop down the wood in order to be able to chuck it in the first place. So, if they ever evolve opposable thumbs or, become smarter, then we might be in trouble. But more than likely, they'll just be chucking it into the sun, which like adding wood to any sort of fire is going to make it bigger and hotter, and then we'll all probably die. But that's not really an issue. Your third question kind of ties into the second one. What's more important is, why is he chucking the wood at all? Well, scientists don't really have a good answer for that, and unfortunately they probably never will, because woodchucks are all extinct. Thanks for your questions, Crow in Black 2008. Our next questions come from Studmuffin Sam, one of my TooCrafty server mates. Hi, Sam. So Sam asks, why isn't there cat-flavored dog food? Well, that's a really good question, Sam. I'm glad you brought this up, because I'd been thinking about this just the other day. And I think, I don't know for sure, but I think the reason there's no cat-flavored dog food is because the cats would be up in arms, because then there would need to be dog-flavored cat food. You see where I'm going with this? That would be a really big problem, a big PR nightmare for the dog food companies, and I don't think anybody wants to do that. The cat lobby is pretty potent. They have lawyers. You know what? I've said too much already. I shouldn't even be talking about this. So Sam's next question is, should vegetarians eat animal crackers? Well, no, obviously. You can't eat any kind of animal, even if they have been made into a cracker. I don't care what kind of cracker it is. If it says animal cracker on there, it's made from animal. Don't eat it. Oh, Sam's third and final question is a really, really good one, but also a really difficult one to answer. What was your favorite childhood game? And that is a very, very, very difficult thing to answer, because I had so many things that I liked. And childhood being kind of a relatively broad category, and I've been gaming for a very long time now, I would say some of the earliest games that I was playing were on our very first computer, a Commodore 64. Now, most of you younger kids aren't going to know what the heck those are. Don't worry about it. I'm not going to get into that. That's boring. But I had a couple games that I used to play on that a lot. The first was the Ghostbusters game for the Commodore 64. A lot of fun, never could beat it, but apparently I was really darn close. Looking into it now, I discovered that I really didn't have much more to do. I never could get past that darn Stay Puft Marshmallow Man hopping around in front of the entrance, but apparently on the Commodore 64 version, once you do that, I guess you just win the game. So, you know, I played it all the darn time, and it was so easy, and it was so much fun. I don't know that it was easy, but I mean, that was one of my earliest games. The other one, also a Commodore 64 game, was a game called Moon Patrol, which I really did not do very well at, and actually it kind of, I guess, scared me a little bit when I was a kid. Not because it was scary, but because it was difficult, and I didn't like when my little moon buggy patrol car thing would explode, and it would happen a lot. So, yeah, I guess that's kind of the best I can give you. So anyway, Sam, I hope that answers your questions. Obviously, I couldn't go into as much detail on some of them as I would like to because I don't want to get sued, but yeah, that's basically it. A lot of really good questions today. I love this. Thank you, guys. So up next is another of my TooCrafty server mates, ErijahLost. And he says, answer me these questions 3. Okay, I can do that. His first question is, who or what inspired you to start Let's Playing, and or who is an influential person in your LPing and why? The truth is, I'm not sure there's any particular individual or group that got me into making gaming videos. I made a few tentative attempts quite some time ago, many years back, and I really wasn't watching a lot of that kind of stuff back in the day. I really just did it just to do it. So I don't know that there really was any particular one that got me into game videos per se. I can tell you definitively that the person who is most directly responsible for getting me into YouTubing as a whole would actually be Crow-and-Black 2008. Without going into too much detail, because it's a long story and it's really not relevant to our current topic, he was someone that the girl I was seeing at the time was really into, and she was always telling me, oh yeah, so-and-so said this, so-and-so said that. And I don't know, I liked watching him because he would talk about just whatever was on his mind. He was always very blunt, usually pretty darn funny, and just generally a good guy. You know, I loved to just listen to him. It didn't even matter what it was. I mean, he had something on his mind, he was gonna make sure everyone knew, and I loved him for that. He's still like that, by the way, so don't think, it's not like he's dead. I made it sound like he was dead. He's not dead. He's very much alive, and he's still making videos, and that's good. So, anyway, I mean, prior to that, I hadn't really been a part of any particular YouTube circles, and really even this one I wasn't really a part of per se, but I just watching him, I realized, you know, why can't I dive into this? Why can't I be a part of this? And so I just basically did. I dove in with both feet, and it was an absolute blast. I still have that other channel, and someday I'm going to return to it, but it's not quite ready yet. But I mean, essentially Crow-and-Black 2008 was kind of the catalyst, if you will, for me getting into YouTubing in general. Prior to that, I'd done a few things here and there, but I think he was kind of the big inspiration for me to actually get into it on a more regular basis, or try to anyway. So as for who's an influential person in my Let's Playing, I guess the closest I can get to that would be the guys over at Rooster Teeth. Mainly because I like that they don't bother trying to, they don't really censor themselves, they don't, maybe a little bit, but not too much. They generally just screw around, and it's maybe a little bit more adult-oriented content, although not terrible. But they don't seem to be too concerned about, you know, things like the language that they're using, or what games they're playing, or, you know, anything like that. I like that. I think the bigger thing for me with them, though, is that they always seem like they're having a good time. Like, absolutely, without a doubt. You watch any of their Let's Plays, especially when you get a big group of them in a video together, and they're having a blast. And that's what this is all about for me, really. I'm a gamer first and a YouTuber second. If it's not fun, I don't want to do it. So, you know, this is something that I do because it's fun. Second question. If you could have a conversation with anyone in history, oh boy, I knew this was coming, who would it be and what would you mainly talk about? This is something I've been agonizing over for the last couple days, and I gotta tell you, there are so many good answers, and every time I think I've settled on one, I come up with a new one. So, you know, I agonized and agonized and agonized. I'm gonna have to go ahead and say George Carlin. And the reason for that is he's just a fascinating guy. He shares my love of language, or he shared my love of language. He was kind of the first comedian that actually got me thinking and just immediately blew open these doors of, you know, words are just words. They're not gonna hurt you. Bad words, good words, they're just words, you know. If you're a fan of Carlin, you know what I mean. If you're not, then I'm not going to convince anybody. But I would have to say George Carlin. And, man, I don't know where I would even start with talking to him. I don't have the first idea what I would say. I think I'd have a lot of questions about his career and things that he said in some of his acts. And I would pick his brain for as long as he would put up with me. So your third question was, a manatee walks into your house wearing a sombrero. What does he say, and why is he here? Well, I'm thinking if a manatee walks into my house and he's got a sombrero on and he's talking, probably what he's going to say is, I need your clothes, your boots, and your motorcycle. And clearly he's here from the future and he's come back to terminate Ralph Macchio, let's say. Because that makes about as much sense as anything else with that question. So yeah, he's come back to terminate Ralph Macchio, and he wants my clothes, my boots, and my motorcycle. I don't own boots. I don't really own a motorcycle. But he can have my clothes if he can fit into them. So that's that. You know, I'm not going to put up a fight. I see what happens when you do that. Somebody comes back from the future and starts demanding your possessions. You give them to him. Especially if he's nude and he's bigger than you. You give them to him. So yeah, that's it. So thanks, Ari, for the great questions. My good friend Jeremy over at Around the Bend Videos asked only one question. Pokemon or Digimon? Really? Okay, well, I'll tell you what. I'll go ahead and answer that question. It's a very good question. Neither. They're for little kids.
Retard.
But Pokemon has Scythers, and I like Scythers because they look like they would chop up the other Pokemon and eat them. So that's my answer. Next up, we have Random Obsessor, aka D, one of my TooCrafty server mates. And D's got a few questions for me as well. First up, how did you get the name Ogre Pants as your in-game name? Well, D, the short and most sensical version I can come up with is there was an anime I used to watch a lot back in the day. And the context for this is just difficult at best. There was a character that got magically put into a pair of what he very unhappily proclaimed ogre pants. They were really just like, it was like a leopard print set of adult diapers is kind of what it looked like. And he was so unhappy, and just the phrase ogre pants just really stuck in my mind after all these years. And then, you know, all the other names that I tried were taken. So that's kind of my backup plan. Whenever I need an account name and I can't come up with something else or everything else is taken, I kind of tend to default back to Ogre Pants because it's kind of a joke, and it's only a joke that I'm gonna get, and maybe a few other people that know me really well. But otherwise, yeah, that's basically it. So your next question: why is your channel thingy Malcolm West Jason yada yada? I already explained that to you. That's all you're gonna get out of me. Nice try. So, next question. How long have you been tubing? Actually, specifically what you said was, how long have you been YouTubing? Well, I think I've been me for a long time, and I think I've been me tubing for a long time. If you're asking how long have I been YouTubing, like one word, my channel has been active since December 18th, 2007, so quite a few years now. Most of that was spent either on another channel, though, or not really doing a whole lot. The updates were sporadic at best, so it wasn't a big thing for me up until this year. I finally decided to get into it kind of more full-time, so I hope that answers your question. Your last question is, do you have any pets? And if so, what are they and what are their names? Well, I have a couple cats that I don't have in my possession anymore. They were wonderful, wonderful cats. Hobbs and Cookie. Hobbs named after Calvin and Hobbes. I had to do that. And Cookie was named after a thing that we eat. And they are with my ex all the way in a funny little town across the state called Roseburg, and I'll probably never see them again. And it's a long story, and it's not real interesting, and so I'm not going to get into it, but I still consider them my dang cats. So, currently, though, I do have another cat, and he is absolutely the shittiest cat I've ever had. His name is Scooby, and that's all I really want to say about him, because I'd like to just beat him with a bucket right now, because I'm just so sick of him. But, yeah, he's cute. So, there you are, D. There's your questions answered. Probably not to your liking, but they are answered nonetheless, so, yeah. Oh, Elfspit Games asked me a question. Just one, but I think it's a good one. He wants to know, what will you do for your 1,000 subscriber special? I will probably light myself on fire and throw myself backwards off of my roof while singing as much of the alphabet as I can. Clearly, I don't ever expect to actually get to 1,000 subscribers. So, for what that's worth. Honestly, I don't know really, but I will absolutely make sure it is hysterical and incredible and just well worth watching. If I ever get to that point, I will put so much time and effort into it, it'll be unbelievable. In fact, I'll probably start on it when I get to about the 900 subscriber mark, just to make sure it's all like ready to go. But yeah, I don't have any definite plans yet. I have some hazy ideas, and I may or may not follow through on some of them, but I don't want to spoil anything, so let's just say it'll be good. So, thank you, Elf. That was a good question. A very good question. That probably wasn't a very good answer, and I'm sorry, but that's all I could come up with right now that I want to tell anybody about. So, with that, I think that brings my Q&A to a close. 50 subscribers, that's pretty big for me. Woo, go me! Thank you all for coming. Thank you all for continuing to watch my videos and subscribe and like this random stuff that I do. And thank you all for coming up with questions. I really appreciate it a great deal. So stick around. There'll be more good stuff. It sounded really convincing there, didn't I? Way to go, Jay. Catch you guys later.